Joined by Oakland City Councilmember Loren Taylor. He's also running for mayor. And you know what? We actually almost ran into each other the other day, last Friday at a Warriors event, but I was on the Warriors tour with Juan Toscano Anderson and Jonathan Kuminga. I was trying to break free to see you. I just couldn't make it happen.
It's all good. I would have probably made that choice too. So you're good.
So I did actually talk to Juan Toscano Anderson. I'm not sure you saw the tweet. It kind of went viral, but he had mentioned the generational value of having a pro sports franchise in Oakland. I know that's something you understand because you've talked yourself about sitting in the bleachers, bringing sandwiches, drinking the Shasta, eating the peanuts. So, I mean, what does that mean? I know it can't be quantified in all the numbers we're running when we look at this project.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about that cultural value, the historical context of having a sports franchise as part of your hometown, it is immeasurable. The fact that, we all grow up with this shared experience of rooting for the team, the green and gold, and what that means in terms of just family bonding, family stories, going way back, creating the opportunity. I remember in summers during elementary school, the A's would give free tickets to those who read a certain number of books. Like, that's the kind of thing that goes along with having a sports team local and in the area.
Yeah, this is really embarrassing, but I actually joined the choir at my elementary school because they were going to sing on the field at the Coliseum. So I suffered through a whole year of choir just to get on the field when I was a kid, which is, I probably shouldn't say that during an interview. But one thing you did point out, though.
Do you have any recordings of that? That's my question.
No, they're all gone, fortunately purged. I don't even know if we could record video back then. So one thing you did say, though, is you cannot sell the soul of the city for the cost of those peanuts that are eaten in the bleachers. So, I mean, what are you seeing in this? And what is kind of a responsible way to look at this deal? I know all the numbers aren't out right now, but what are your concerns?
I think the bottom line is that we're creating a hell of a lot of value here in Oakland through this development. $12 billion of investment, that when you invest $12 billion, those who are investing it are looking to have a return. There's going to be a return on the investment. There's going to be increased value. The question is, how does that value get distributed? If the city's putting in certain resources, certain things, while alongside of that, the Fisher family is doing so as well, we need to make sure that everyone who's at the table is getting a commensurate return on their investment, commensurate benefit in the near term and the long term. And that's really what this, the back and forth negotiations are. When you talk about a baseball stadium that is 10% of the value of this overall project, 1.2 out of $12 billion, then clearly this is not just about baseball. Even though baseball is important and having a team is important, this is a development deal, and we need to make sure that the development deal makes sense for all parties. And it's that win-win that we're working for.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a really interesting time right now. I talk about this a lot, but we're in this weird phase where the development agreement is still being negotiated. The community benefits agreement is still being negotiated. There's a lot of there's a lot of vagueness, I guess you could call it, in this whole thing right now. So it's hard to even discuss, isn't it? I mean, how much are you getting from city staff and consultants right now about where those negotiations are?
Yeah, so we get regular briefings every 2 to 3 weeks in terms of how the negotiations are going. We know that the A's and the city are both coming to the table, exchanging deal terms and different notes at least once or 2 times a week as we seek to bridge the gap and find that win-win situation. So I feel as though we're getting the updates that are needed. Obviously, there's a lot that needs to get addressed, a lot of moving parts. And frankly, there are a number of other agencies that still have to make their approvals. We saw what happened with the BCDC. Their subcommittee had to make some recommendations. They're going to have an eventual project soon, but in terms of eventual final decision, but we're not there yet. So there's still a lot to happen between now and the final decision that the city council makes.
Yeah, so I watch a lot of these meetings. I'm a sports guy, so I didn't always watch these meetings. I don't know if it's possible to win a city council meeting, but you're the one that always jumps out to me with the comments you make, because I feel like you get it, probably because you grew up rooting for the A's. But one thing you said was everyone can get what they want. We just have to work together. Can you
Absolutely.
expand upon that? Because I
Yeah.
know that there's so many pieces to this puzzle. It's almost crazy.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, is you have to have intent. Everybody at the table has to be focused on the same goal and making sure that we all want the same outcome. I feel that we have that. And then it's a matter of putting in the hard work to strike that balance. It's very easy to stay at that top line, like, yes, we want a team, or no, we don't want a team. Yes, we want community benefits, or no, we don't. But the question is, how do we make that happen? That requires actually getting your pencil out, sharpening it, going through the details, every line item of the pro forma, going through the 3,600 or more pages of the environmental impact report. There's work that needs to be done. And that's where I believe that we are, and that we have folks who are actually doing that. And that's what I'm excited about, is that it's not until you do that that you can actually get to the point where you find that deal where folks realize, hey, you know what? I am benefiting, and you're benefiting, and they're benefiting. And in that way, we all win: the community, the city, those investors, the A's, the developers, and those fans, the stakeholders.
Now, back in July, I know it was almost a completely different picture. And you had mentioned there was a bit of bullying from the A side. Have you seen a complete change in their tact?
You know, I'm going to be honest. I think that's the way that certain people do deal making, right? They come in, try and leverage their position, their strength. And I would say that while we see more partnership from the A's, I wouldn't say that it's all better. That's, you know, when you are at the boardroom, it's a lot of times it's people flexing in order to get what they want and do that. You just have to recognize that that's going to be part of the game and part of the process. Initially, the A's, they attempted to flex over the media, social media, by putting stuff on Twitter, doing all this other stuff. Is that I will say, a way of building trust in a relationship, in a negotiation process? No, it's not. But we understand it. We know the dynamics in that piece, and we have to similarly hold our own when it comes to the taxpayer and the residents of Oakland, what we want, what we need, and what we deserve.
Yeah, and I feel like the city council, in a way, in that July meeting, kind of called the A's bluff. You know, they were saying, we're not going to consider a vote on the city's term sheet a yes vote. The city council went ahead and did it anyways. They didn't leave. So the city council really stood firm, stood their ground, and really protected the city's general fund in that meeting. So I thought that was a power move by the city as well. What do you think, if this thing gets built, what do you think will be the key thing that kind of pushes it over the hump as we see it right now?
Honestly, I think steady progress, steady momentum, getting there, engaging those who may be naysayers, engaging those who are supporters and strong advocates, making sure that everybody has an opportunity to participate. But ultimately, we've got to do the hard work, make sure that we get the best possible outcome. We have to be very clear about what the benefits are, the trade-offs, what the cost, the opportunity cost is as well, and call the question. Eventually, we have to get to the point where we call the question, and that's what we're working towards. But we have to be as informed and do as much diligence as possible before then.
Yeah, I know there is some talk of a referendum too. Would that, I mean, that would set things back quite a bit. Where do you stand on that referendum? Because as I see it, in my opinion, is that, you know, the city council, you guys have the access to the city staff and the consultants, and you guys have been spending a lot of time trying to figure this out. So I don't know that I even see anybody more qualified to make that decision than you guys, but let me know where you stand on that issue.
Absolutely. I get the some of the sentiment is, hey, we want to make sure that we give everybody a chance to weigh in. But the reality is that we are elected to this role to do a job. And that job means we have to roll up our sleeves, put in the time, the hard work, the analysis that's there. We can't expect the 450,000 Oakland residents to read 3,600-page environmental impact report, analyze all of the details in the investment pro forma around this, figure out all of these elements of a deal, and make as informed of a decision as we are, who are elected by the people, to actually do this work. So to me, the idea of a referendum is on the wrong track. We need to, do the work that we have to do, have the conversations. I've been having conversations with folks in my district and outside of my district consistently to understand where we are, where things are. Yes, there are differing opinions. That's part of our job, is to balance that, bring it all to the fold, and figure out the best course for us as a city overall, and supporting those who need the support most. And that's what I am doing. That's what I know we have other council members doing. I think we all should sort of step up to that role.
Yeah, that's actually something I was going to ask you, how your constituents feel, because you hear a lot of different opinions. You hear a lot of different information out there. I've been covering this for well over a decade, and it's confusing for me even. So how do your constituents feel about what you're doing?
My constituents have I will say, a very real history of being taken advantage of by sports teams. When you look at the Raiders deal and how they have, abandoned us and have tried to extract more dollars from us. When you look at the Warriors, grateful for the team, but they tried to leave town without fulfilling their obligation on the stadium bond or the Coliseum bond. So when you look at that and you realize that these are business deals, business transactions, and folks are trying to get as much as they can on the taxpayer dime, there's a valid reason for skepticism and distrust. At the same time, we've got folks that realize we have significant needs here in the city, and those needs have to be addressed with greater revenue, greater diversification of our revenue base. And what that means is we have to look for equitable economic development opportunities. And so what I hear from my residents is that they want to ensure that we are able to grow, we're able to address the significant needs, really get more value out of these assets that are, producing very little value. Howard Terminal today produces what, $79,000 in taxpayer revenue. We're going to convert that to tens of millions of dollars annually after the project is done. And that's the kind of transformation that we need, not to mention all of the jobs that are created, all of the housing that's created, the other aspects of the economy that allow us to then spend money on homelessness, spend money on public safety solutions, transportation, aging infrastructure, all of those.
Yeah, and the Raiders really muddied the water for sports city relationships. The fact that Mount Davis is still being paid for when it's completely unused is shameful. But what I do see as a positive, not in that, but in this deal, is you all really stood firm, and you're making sure that's not going to happen again, right?
Absolutely. We have learned lessons from past administrations, past, I will say, elected officials. We are not going to repeat those same errors, those same mistakes. We have put safeguards in place to protect the taxpayer dollars, to make sure that we're not going to be stiff-armed by a sports team in this process. So yes, we're learning from it. It's a different set of leaders that are in now who are not willing to kind of, as I said, sell the soul of the city just to have a team that's sporting our name on their logo. At the same time, it is important that we really do push hard and get this win-win to help grow the city, create that value that we're talking about, that, is tangible and intangible.
This may be an impossible question to answer, but let's just say this deal doesn't happen. The A's are out. What do you think would be kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak?
Things are tough in Oakland. Let's be honest. It's not, there is no easy path to get things done. There are a number of things that could derail a project that is this complex, this big, this bold, this transformational. But I maintain that there is a path. I see a path to creating that win-win where we get maximum benefit and value for the city in a way that we are better off. And so that's what I continue to work for. That's what our residents continue to, ask for. And so I'm committed, and others on the council, as well as in city administration, have also expressed their desire for that same thing.
Now, I mentioned earlier, we were both in the same place at the same time last week, didn't run into each other. We were on two different tours, but I saw you were working the room, and I know you're running for mayor. So how much work is that process?
Well, it is a beast. We've got a very, I will say, long, hard 7.5 months ahead of us until November 8th, but it's absolutely worth it. As a kid from Oakland, born and raised here, a product of the town, the future of this city and all of its residents is deeply personal to me. And that's the reason that I've stepped up, a non-traditional elected official, biomedical engineer turned management consultant, someone who is bringing a professional problem-solving expertise, the ability to pull people together. And I'm eager to do that in a way that addresses our toughest challenges. This Howard Terminal opportunity is one complex challenge and situation, but we've got so many others to deal with. And it's time for us to really step up in a way that we haven't and realize the potential of the town.
A couple more for you. And I know there's a lot more important things to figure out than a baseball stadium, but like you've mentioned, this is also housing, commercial, public parks. Do you see this stadium though as an opportunity to solve some of those other issues? I know the A's can't fix everything and they shouldn't be asked to, but couldn't this really help the problems with the schools and the roads and all the other issues, homelessness, et cetera?
It absolutely will. Whenever you look at the challenges that we have, that we face, a lot of the underlying issues are a lack of resources to really address the problem. So we have to increase the revenue base for our city. We have to increase that. Yes, with development comes other challenges that we have to manage and mitigate. I'm grateful that this project is expected to bring 30 to 35% affordable housing along with, as part of the 3,000 units of housing that are going to be built. I'm grateful that there will be the thousands of jobs that are created, both immediate jobs in terms of the one-time sort of construction efforts that will last, more than a decade, but also the jobs of the businesses that move here, the additional sort of aspects of the economy. So I'm eager to see that as well. And I have to acknowledge the fact that we have a very thriving working port. The port operations and the jobs that has created, long-term living wage careers. We have to make sure that these things can coexist at the same time. That's the level of detailed nuance that we're working through to figure out how to make that happen. And so we will, if this comes to fruition, see the benefit in multiple ways that address issues of housing and homelessness, issues of public safety, and other things that will get addressed.
Yeah, you hit on a great point there, because it cannot be a choice between Howard Terminal or the port. I mean, the port is the obvious answer. You're keeping the port. So
absolutely,
that needs to be protected at all
costs. The port
is
the highest, has the highest number of employees in the city, jobs that are created. So we must safeguard the port and the port operations and what it does for our supply chain, while also looking at these other opportunities.
All right, last one for you. Let's go back in time a little bit to when you're sitting in those bleachers. What were your favorite A's teams growing up? What were some of your favorite players?
Well, I mean, I was in junior high when we had, Ricky Henderson, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire. They were all Dennis Eckersley. That was I will say, my vintage that I get excited about. So, and Dave Stewart, of course. So excited about reliving that and having my son and my grandkids have similar experiences and memories.
Nice. Yeah, I grew up on the same guys, the same squad. So I feel you on that one for sure. Bash Bros,
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much, Casey.